Okay, let's dive right into this explainer. We're looking at a story about how tiny mistakes can create massive, massive disasters. But we aren't going to start with a computer. We're going to start with a relatable morning gone terribly wrong.
Have you ever had a really bad morning? Imagine waking up on a big day. You feel ready. But then, the dominoes of disaster start falling, one by one.
First, you leave the stove on and crack the glass coffee pot. Because of that giant mess, you rush out the door. In your rush, you forget your keys and lock yourself out. So you run to catch the bus, only to find out the bus drivers are on strike. Everything is ruined.
Sociologist Charles Perrow calls this exact situation tight coupling. What is that? It means these aren't just random bits of bad luck. They are tightly connected steps. And because they are so connected, one tiny spill ruins the entire morning. You absolutely cannot stop the chain reaction.
In one simple sentence, a tightly coupled system is like a row of dominoes. If you push the first one, they literally all fall down.
Part 1. The computer's brain and the lunch trays.
Now let's look at a tightly coupled system sitting right there on your desk, your computer. The CPU is like the brain of the computer. A program gives it tiny orders. The brain reads one order at a time very fast. To do this, it uses a special workspace called a stack. What is a stack? It is just a pile of short-term memory on a desk. The rule is strictly this: the last thing you put down on the pile is the very first thing you pick up.
Think of a cafeteria. You know those spring-loaded piles of lunch trays? If you put a new tray right on top, that is the very first tray the next person takes. We call this last in, first out. The computer stack works exactly like washing dishes in a cafeteria.
But the brain needs to remember what it was doing before it picked up a new tray. So whenever the brain finishes a tiny order, it looks under the tray for a literal sticky note. Computer scientists call this a return address. But let's just think of it as a sticky note that tells the brain exactly where to go next.
Let's recap this part in one simple sentence. The computer's brain uses a stack of trays to organize its work and a sticky note to remember where to go next.
Part 2. Spilling over the edges. Let's introduce a new piece to our computer desk. It is called a buffer. A buffer is just a tiny physical box meant to hold a very specific amount of information. Imagine this tiny box is designed to hold exactly 16 letters. Think of it like a short password. It has room for 16 letters and not a single letter more.
So, what happens if someone breaks the rules? What happens if a hacker forces way too many items into a box made for only a few? Let's say they try to stuff 256 items into a box made for exactly 16. Here is exactly what happens. The box fills up completely. Then the extra items violently spill out over the edges, right onto the desk. And remember that important sticky note sitting right next to it? The spill completely crushes it. This is what programmers call a buffer overflow. In one simple sentence, a buffer overflow is just putting too much stuff in a tiny box until it spills over and breaks the things around it. Part 3. Stealing the sticky note.
Why would a bad guy want to make a mess on our desk? Well, the truth is, this spill is not an accident at all. It's an intentional trick. When the bad guy causes the box to spill over, they are hiding something inside the mess. They hide their own fake sticky note. So when the real sticky note gets crushed by the spill, the fake one takes its place.
And see how this builds a disaster? The computer's brain finishes its work. It looks down for its sticky note. It sees the fake sticky note, but the brain thinks it is a real order, so it starts following a malicious recipe without even knowing it was tricked. The hacker is now fully in control. Let's make sure this is crystal clear. In one simple sentence, hackers use a spill to swap the computer's sticky note with their own secret instructions. Oh, that's actually easy to picture, right? Part 4. The secret cookie alarm. We have a problem. How do we protect the brain from following fake sticky notes? We need a way to know if a spill happened before the brain reads the note. Well, programmers invented a brilliant and funny-sounding solution. They added a trap. They call it a stack cookie. What is a stack cookie? It is a secret alarm bell hidden securely right under the sticky note. Think of it as a literal, fragile, crunchy cookie placed carefully under the paper sticky note on the desk. Now, if the tiny box spills over, the wave of garbage sweeps across the desk. But before it can swap the sticky note, the cookie gets crushed. The brain hears the crunch. It spots the mess, sounds the alarm, and safely shuts everything down before reading any fake notes. The hacker fails.
This is a very clever defense. In one simple sentence, a secret cookie acts like a burglar alarm that stops the computer if anything spills.
Part 5. Keeping complex systems safe.
Whether it's a bad morning routine or a computer desk, tightly coupled things are fragile. When one thing goes wrong, the whole system can crash. When we build incredibly complex machines, we have to understand the tiny, physical rules that keep them from falling apart. We have to design better boxes, or at least put fragile cookies next to them to warn us.
So let's bring it all together. In one simple sentence, a buffer overflow is just a box spilling over and changing the computer's instructions, but a secret cookie alarm can stop it.
I'll leave you with this thought to ponder. As our daily systems become tighter and more connected, what other secret alarms do we need to build into our lives to keep the dominoes from falling?